the Bossman show here with Coach Rob Lanier of our Georgia State Panthers right in Atlanta. Coach Lanier, man, good to talk to you again, my brother. How's life treating you guys over there in Georgia State?
You know what, all things considered, man, we're doing okay. We like everybody else, we're trying to make the most of some really unique times, and we're happy to have our guys here. We went a long time being away from our guys and really missed them, and so having most of our team back that's been really healthy for us. I think it's been healthy for the guys too, and we've tried to spend as much quality time with our guys as possible. That's been good on and off the court.
Let's go back to March when everything went down, Coach. Where were you guys at when everything kind of got canceled around my birthday, which is March 11th? Everything went down here from there, man. So where were you guys at, and how did you guys kind of react to that when it all went down the first time in March there?
Yeah, it was a strange time, as you could imagine. I mean, at that time there was, things were just starting. The onset of the magnitude of the coronavirus was really starting to pick up, and it was funny because, JR, at that time, everybody, I mean, maybe I was a little bit paranoid, but I thought I had it, the way I was feeling at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the testing wasn't as available as much back then. But I remember for like a week and a half, I slept on the couch downstairs, and I tried to stay away from my family as much as possible. My son went through a period of time where he had gotten a diagnosis of mono.
Oh, wow.
We had sent him to my wife sent him to a what you call urgent care center, and they diagnosed him with mono. And so based on that diagnosis, his high school career was going to be over.
Oh, wow.
Because he was going to have to be out for a matter of months. But then we followed up and had him see another doctor, and they said he didn't have mono. And so we started thinking about the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
And he wound up being okay. He was out for, 10, 12 days or whatever, and then they wound up winning the state championship. But he went from that range of emotion. So there was a cloud. It seemed to be over everything. And we wound up getting eliminated from the conference tournament, but we were still eligible for the postseason. And so we were committed to participate in a postseason tournament. And we wanted to keep playing and continue to improve and continue to build on what we had established. And just like that, it was over.
Yeah, I was at the Hawks game on my birthday against the Knicks there, and all of a sudden you get the text message, season over with. I'm like, it's suspended. I'm like, oh, for real? And then ever since my birthday, this has been the weirdest 5-month stretch ever in my life. And for you too, probably as well, Coach. Everything is just different from how we thought it was just 5 months ago.
It's amazing. I mean, you think about it. No NCAA tournament, the 2020 Olympics not being played, the NBA season gets suspended. When we first were hearing about what was going on in the other countries and the number of deaths and the number of cases, and now it's up over 160,000 deaths. And still a lot of disagreement on the magnitude of it, the approach to take to it. There isn't like a consistent approach. So because of that, I don't know if, what lies ahead in terms of how we're going to move on from it, because there's not a unified approach to attacking it. So
definitely,
everybody wants to get back to normal. And I think it feels like the more we push forward, the longer it's going to hang around. So
you get that right.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously, as coaches, we want to get back to work. I think young people want to move forward, and what's best and their best approach. I'm no expert on that, but it doesn't appear that we're nearing an end to this thing.
And coach, I know you probably your young men for having to persevere through all this has been going on, had to finish up their classes online, and then didn't stay healthy back at home, and just they want to adversity at a young age for these young men. It's only going to help them down the road. So I think it's a good opportunity for you to teach these young men and your staff to help these young men become better men for years to come from what's happened, unfortunately, in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, they're living in historic times, and not just the coronavirus, but there's a lot of things going on socially in our country. And we certainly don't want what's happening right now to be lost on them. We want them to be engaged. We want them to be thoughtful, and we want them to continue to inform themselves in a way that they can grasp what's going on around them right now. We don't want to tell them who to vote for, but we want to encourage them to vote. But we want them to get involved in what's going on, and we want them to be responsible as it relates to, the guidelines that's been set forth as it relates to the coronavirus. We want them to be engaged when it comes to what's happening socially, and we want them to be involved when it comes to the election. All of these things, and we want them to be able to reflect back on this time one day and say, I lived through some historic times, and I didn't let that time pass me by. I was involved, I was aware, and I learned a lot from what I went through. And so we want this unique time to serve them in that way.
And coach, how are those Zoom calls once George Floyd's killing happened, Ahmaud Arbery happened, then the racial outbreaks right in here in our backyard? How are those Zoom calls with your team trying to explain to them what happened and what steps they can take to moving ahead to kind of make a difference, as you said, coach, and understand they're part of this solution as well, not just saying everybody older than they are. We all are part of the solution to make this better for everybody going forward.
Yeah, these guys have grown up in a time where they've seen this. Unfortunately, the George Floyd situation wasn't the first time they've seen this. When I was their age, I didn't see a video like the Philando Castile video. I mean, I remember the Rodney King thing. I remember the energy around that. But these guys have grown up in an age where they saw the Tamir Rice video. They saw the Philando Castile video. They saw the Oscar Gray movie that was based on a real incident. A guy handcuffed, face down, gets shot in the back. So when the George Floyd thing happened, it just happened to coincide with the coronavirus when everybody was stuck at home and they had to pay attention to it. The analogy that I like to use is like if you're on the highway on I-85 going north and traffic is moving pretty smoothly, but there's a traffic jam on the other side because there was a major accident and there's a car flipped over. You slow down and see what's going on, and you might feel bad that somebody got hurt on the other side, but because traffic is still moving, you keep it moving and you go on with your day. And so when some of these other things happened, that was sort of what was going on. But now traffic is stuck on both sides.
Got that right.
And everybody had to pay attention to it. And so I think it created a different type of energy that we see now with because people want to move on. They don't want NBA players putting stuff on their jerseys and talking about it all the time. They want it to go away. And I think there's an energy now that ain't going away. And that's what I mean when I say I want our players to remain engaged, to be involved, to continue to inform themselves. And you and I both know growing up that you experience this feeling of knowing that something's not right, but not necessarily having the words to articulate it in a way that's effective. So sometimes it comes out as frustration or anger, and it gets pushed back down because you can't really hit the mark. And I think this is an opportunity, I think, as young people stay engaged, continue to educate themselves, remain informed. You can keep hitting that mark right now, and they can't push it down as easily. And I think this is a good moment in time in that regard.
And coach, I explained to some young men last week that hey, at 33 years old, I'm the first one in my family to be born with all of my rights per se, but not really, but kind of born on paper, all my rights. But once I get off the radio, I'm this JR black man. Same with you, you're just Rob a coach. When you take off the Georgia State stuff, you're just a black man in Atlanta. So anything can happen to us at any time because of us color our skin. We want equality, but we have to speak truth to power and understand that hey, we have to be champions of this. We need our other brothers and sisters to help us to champion these causes and change because, as John Lewis said, we got to make good trouble to make the proper changes we all want for equality for generations to come.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like I said, I got a son who's 19 years old now. I got a daughter who's 17, and you just really want young people to be aware, to be mindful, not to live in fear. Um, but just know that there's a history to this that they should understand and how it relates to where we are now and how things have improved and in areas where it still needs to improve. And the more they know, the better they navigate, the world that they're living in today. And so that's our responsibility as adults is to educate ourselves and try to inform the young people that we come into contact with without always preaching. I could be a little preachy with the guys. I'm sure they would tell you, but I do want them to become more informed.
And coach, you know what's been crazy since George Floyd happened? I've used this show to talk about our race and our culture, what's going on in the nation. And the blowback I've gotten from certain sections of my listener audience has been like, wow, I know where you stand. But what I love is when older people come up to me and tell me to be a young man in your 30s, you get it. And I think it's because my parents are older. My dad will be 80. My mom is going to be 70. So having older parents who grew up in the civil rights era, it helps me to be able to articulate these things to the listenership audience. And unfortunately, there are some who don't want to hear it, but this is a perfect time to discuss because we need to get this stuff on the go. And I have a platform that goes from Chattanooga to Macon. I gotta use my voice to help out people in this community of Atlanta and there and beyond to get us to another level. And I wanted to really try to hit this point home with people because it's very important, Coach. You know that we're in a mecca of history in Atlanta. We have to speak for truth to power and get young men and young women in all ages on board with this movement we have going here right now.
Yeah, I agree, brother, and I appreciate what you're doing. And I think that the step that we want to take with our young people, and what I've tried to do with my kids, Jr., is to get them to a point where they start to identify policy and start to understand which policies need to be addressed in order to improve things that we're upset about. And so, I think there's been a lot of talk of late about the difference between local, state, and federal as it relates to voting. And so that distinction is becoming clearer, I think, to a lot of people because so many people put so much emphasis on who's in the White House that they don't pay as much attention, to the people that make changes for you where you live. And then what exact policies do you want to make sure get addressed in your community? And I think that's another layer of information that we want people to get more informed about. And I think it's great because what's happening right now is we're talking to young people about things that nobody talked to us about.
Yes,
When I was
indeed.
when I was a college athlete, I wasn't thinking about these things. I didn't know what a councilman or a congressman or a congresswoman or the fact that the district attorney and all of these people that make decisions where you live never thought about voting for them or the impact that they made on the day-to-day lives of people that lived in those communities. So these are things that my son will have a better understanding of. My point guard will have a better understanding of, even if they don't fully engage in it right now, right here. The fact that we're talking about about it with them maybe when they're 24, 25, and they got their first apartment and their first job and they're navigating the world outside of basketball. Now all of a sudden these things start to have more substance to them as they start to move into the real world. And even that would be sooner than it hit me. And so so we're just going to keep trying to hammer away at those things as much as we're trying to get better with who they are as student athletes and taking advantage of the opportunity that's been afforded to them to be here. We want them to grow in all those other ways just as much.
And Coach, speaking of on the court, with the virus and guys being at home, how'd your strength coaching keep those young men in shape? Because some guys might not have hoops to hoop on, and keep their bodies where they want so out of shape when they get back to you for workouts now that they're back with you. So how'd you guys kind of manage that while they was out with the virus?
To be honest with you, we didn't care about them being in shape. That wasn't our focus. Our focus was what they were doing academically. We wanted that time in the first several months following the shutdown. We wanted them to be engaged in their academic responsibilities. And because there was so much unknown about the virus, I did not want to emphasize to the players about being in shape and playing ball and working on your game. And then they go out and put themselves in harm's way because they're trying to follow and do what they think we want them to do. And then they asymptomatically pick something up and bring it back to the auntie or the grandma or the mother. I wanted them to stay home, to be honest with you. And if they wanted to go in the driveway and shoot, if they had that, or go out for a run and still social distance, I was okay with that. But I was clear with the coaches, let's not pressure these guys to feel like they got to come back here in game shape, because then they might go out and make some bad decisions. And out playing shirts and skins with no mask on, and then all of a sudden they're with family and they put somebody else in harm's way. So I wanted to de-emphasize the basketball as much as possible and put most of that emphasis on them doing their online schoolwork. And to our guys' credit, they handled that responsibility well. And now that we do have them back, we have to stay consistent with that and take our time getting them in shape gradually, instead of trying to go from 0 to 100 after we know they've been out for a while. And while they were out, we didn't emphasize how much they were doing. And now that we got them, we're trying to create a controlled environment for them to get back to the level that they need to get to.
And speaking of that, Coach, how weird is it going to be for your guys to maybe not have students on your campus, less people around, or try to keep them in that kind of a little bubble that you guys have at Georgia State to keep those guys healthy? Because they're college kids. They're 18, 19, 23 years old. They want to have some fun and keep them responsible enough not to go out and tempt that Atlanta nightlife and bring some back to everybody and mess everybody up.
Yeah, it's going to require some discipline. And the fact of the matter is, I told you I can be a little preachy, and I've been doing a lot of preaching.
It's all good here. It's all good.
Yeah. But I want those guys to be disciplined and make decisions and just understand patience is important. And right now, they have to be patient with their social life. The stuff that they really want to do socially, they're going to have to put that aside. And they have to have the faith that will come back around. But right now, we need to spend time in the gym. We need to spend time together. And then when the academic responsibilities kick back in, their focus needs to be on that. And right now, just a lot of things that they're not going to be able to do. They are going to have some time together off the court. And we're going to make their schedule full on the court. And then we're going to spend as much time as we can away from basketball to continue to hammer home a lot of the things that I told you we've been trying to get across to them. But we know we can't be with them 24 hours. We know as young people there's things they want to do, and I don't blame them. I would be just like they are. But I also want them to understand that this is a unique time. And special people can rise to the occasion sometimes when things are called for. And this is a situation where they have to rise to a certain level of responsibility to be able to say, as much as I want to have fun, now ain't the time. as much as I want to be around a group of people, this is not the time. And I'm man enough to understand that these times are unique, and I'm disciplined enough to make the right decisions right here and right now. And so this is the way we talk to them. We bring them in the morning and work out. We bring them back in the afternoon and work out. They lift. And I want these guys to say, you know what, I'm going to invest my time in basketball right now. And then when school starts, I'm going to invest my time in school, and I'm going to have to set some of the social stuff aside for the time being, knowing that in due time, that will come back around.
Question for you, Coach. This is your second year at Georgia State. How would you recap and say year one went coming to Atlanta? I told you you got hired. I'm glad you're here. They couldn't have had a better guy than you, Coach, to lead this program. So for you, how's it been year one in Atlanta going to year two, man?
Well, you know what? This is not a normal year too. This is normally you finish your year one way or the other, and then you go to the spring and you start over in the spring. And then after your spring semester is over, they go home, and then when they come back, you get to work again, and then you really get to work with your eyes on year two. When we brought our guys back on July 20th, we did it with the mindset of, we're going to create an environment that's going to be good for their mental health, not for year two. We don't know what the season's going to look like, when it's going to start, how it's going to start, etc. So instead of that being our focus and what we're aiming at, we're just aiming at one day at a time, trying to enjoy the time that we have together, and just make it as simple as that. Try to bring some projects to the table for these guys to work on so that we can really jog their minds outside of basketball and get them thinking about some of the things that you and I had talked about, and some things even outside of that. And spend some time getting to know one another better. Today's a good example. We have a young man on our team from the Congo, and we have talked a lot with our team about what's going on in the United States right now with the coronavirus and with all the social issues that are happening. And we got a guy sitting in our locker room who hasn't been with his family for 5 years. And we're talking about everything but what his experience is about. So today we met, and our whole focus was on his journey and what it's like where he's from, and why he hasn't been with his family for 5 years, why he made that decision, and what his goals are. And I think it was a good revelation for our players of how grown this young man is, how mature he is, and what he's about. They know he's a good person and a good teammate, but they didn't know the depth of his experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a good opportunity for us to really put some stuff on the table for our group. And so these are the kind of things that we're trying to indulge in with the time that we have with these guys.
Most definitely. Well, Coach, I tell you what, man, I'm definitely thankful for you being here leading this program. I really am. I'm glad you're here. They hired a great person for the job, man. You're doing a great job over there with the Panthers, man. I'm hoping to be able to come see you guys real soon, man, once this virus stuff, calms down, man. I haven't seen my parents in 2 months, man, because they're older. So, that's kind of how the virus has been going. But I'm going to come out and see you guys at the office here real soon, Coach.
Okay, brother. I appreciate you, man. You're always welcome. Come see us.
Anytime, Coach. That's Rob Lanier here on the Bossman Show.
For all your photo, video, and voiceover needs, check out the fine folks at Blueberry Productions. They will take good care of you. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself. Check out their work at blueberryproductions.tv, the Facebook page, Blueberry Productions, also a Vimeo page, a YouTube page, and it's Blueberry, BLUBERRY, Prod on Twitter. Check them out today. Blueberry Productions, great people, great work, great service.
Hey there, your yard took a real beating this summer. Luckily, Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard has your back. Just feed your grass with Scott's again this fall when the air is cool and the soil is warm. It's the perfect time to give your lawn a boost. If you do, Winter Guard will give your yard the nourishment it needs to help weak, thin grass recover and support root growth, giving you a greener, more resilient lawn both now and next spring. Guaranteed. Grab a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard today. You'll be back to barbecuing in no time. This is a Scott's Yard.
Hey parents, we all try to be extra careful with our children in the car, but then we get an important call or text. Remember, our children are watching. Make every drive a good example. Be in the zone. Turn off your phone. Visit childrenshospital.vanderbilt.org/BITZ to learn more about our Teen Driver Safety Program. Brought to you by Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, the Ford Motor Company Fund, and the Allstate Foundation.
Hello, my name is Travis Williams, President and CEO of Academics and Athletic Consulting, focusing on educating and empowering tomorrow's collegiate athletic leaders. My passion is for the education and genuine concern and care for today's student athlete. It's the centerpiece of my life's work. A college education, both in and out of the classroom, is a truly rewarding benefit. For more information on AAC, you can go to www.academicsandathleticsconsulting.com. Once again, www.academicsandathleticsconsulting.com. Or you can follow me on Facebook at Academics and Athletic Consulting, or Twitter at Coach TWill24, or Instagram Travis L. Williams 24. Or you can call me at 404-542-6079. Once again, AAC is very proud to partner with J.R. McHenry of the Bossman Radio Show, covering sports and entertainment across the country. Please tune in weekly for informative, entertaining, and expert analysis on today's sports and entertainment topics. Thank you.
Hip-hop fans, I got a great album for you. The debut album from Family Grind ENT, True Speech and 313 Fresh. We're going to give you 2 discs, 33 songs of pure, genuine hip-hop. Album is available on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, illstreetrex.com, and streaming live right now on Rhapsody, Beats Music, Spotify, Xbox Music, Slacker Radio, and SoundCloud. Check them out today. True Speech and 313 Fresh. Family Grind ENT. Believe in it. Get it.
A gorgeous tan from Suntan City gives you an inner glow that relights the fire when you run into your first crush.
Vicky, who was that?
An old boyfriend.
Lucky you just tanned at Suntan City.
Lucky he's single. We're doing lunch tomorrow.
Won't be single for long then.
During Tour of the City, try all 5 tans, including spray tan, for just $4.99. Restrictions may apply. Click to buy now.
Suntan City, let yourself shine.
When you're a teen, you finally get to make some of your own decisions. Who are you going to hang out with? What do you want to be? Are you going to glance at that text while driving? Remember, a split second is all it takes for something tragic to happen. Be in the zone. Turn off your phone. Visit childrenshospital.vanderbilt.org/BITZ to learn more about our Teen Driver Safety Program. Brought to you by Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, the Ford Motor Company Fund, and the Allstate Foundation.
It's maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer.
Tell me what you gonna do to me. Confrontation ain't nothing new to me. You could bring a bullet, bring a sword, bring a morgue, but you can't bring the truth to me.
Alexa, play Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
Okay. Maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Yeah, it's your man JC, the host with the most, baby, and it goes down each and every Saturday night right here in the city of Memphis. That's right, y'all. It goes down at Clicks Sports Bar Memphis, baby. 3705 Malco Way, Memphis, Tennessee, 38125. Come out and join us, the Three Kings, each and every Saturday night for the livest karaoke in the city. Everybody gets in free till 10 p.m. Only $5 after. Great food. We got drink specials. We got all kind of games, man. We got the pool tables popping. Whatever you want, we got you, man. Come on out. Have a good time with us each and every Saturday night. That's Clicks Sports Bar, Memphis.
All right, folks, back here on the Bossman Show. Good friend of the show, buddy of mine, Coach Matt Figure at Austin P. Coach Figure, good to see you, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm hanging in there. How about yourself, pal?
Hey, Coach, it's been a heck of a 5 months, man. Being at home, much as I have, is strange for me. You know how I'm on the road, man. This has been weird for me.
Yeah, I can only imagine because during the NBA season, you're city to city, town to town, man. You're always on the roll. You're the circus, man.
Yeah, you got there right. I'll find something to come see you guys play on my off day on Thursday. So you know how that is, man. So yeah, being at home doing yard work, man, stuff I've never had to do in a long time, man. But I'm not used to it yet.
All that time you spent on the road, you never thought you'd be relegated to a maintenance man.
You got that right. You got that right, Coach. Now, for you guys, man, March 11th, which is my birthday, when everything went all straight down the drain, man. How did you and your staff kind of help the guys, man, deal with this? I know you just had an overseas tournament the week prior to that. So, how was that process for you guys, man?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that it was a bed of roses or anything. We had just so much unknown and confusion. The first 3 weeks was pretty hard. With just our team had lost in the semifinals, and we had spring break, and the NCAA tournament wasn't supposed to happen for another 10 days or so. So I let our kids go home for spring break, knowing that there was some possibilities of postseason invitations out there for us. And then everything started shutting down. I was actually in Atlanta recruiting on that Tuesday when everything started going haywire, and it just went from there. And so every morning you woke up, it's a new game plan, and that's kind of what this this pandemic has brought on to us, is that there's no written playbook for what to do next. And so I tell my guys, the only thing you can do is just kind of go with what's happening, because we may play a team that's never showed a 1-3-1 zone in 10 previous games, and we come out of a timeout and they're in a 1-3-1 zone. So we got to learn how to adjust, and that's kind of how we've played it. And I give credit to my guys for being kids are resilient sometimes, man. We as the older we get, man, sometimes we overthink everything.
Most definitely.
Positive or negative, we overthink it. And I have found that these guys are just wanting to hoop, man. That's they want to play. And so without basketball, a lot of these young men, their identities right now have been taken from them. And so they're trying to figure out who they are. And the best way they can figure out who they are is by playing basketball. So they've been really eager to get back on the court.
And I can only imagine going from being on campus to having to learn virtually in the middle of a semester, keep the grades up. So I know how it can be hard for you, instead of make sure the young men had the support staff and the academic advisors to make sure their grades stayed up, having to go back home and deal with all those things of being back home and trying to be school at the same time.
Well, this is where, again, I've got great kids, and Katie Etheridge, who is in charge of our academics. She is terrific, and we ended up having a 3.554 team GPA at the end of the semester.
Great.
So, that's something to, even in hard times, we were able to persevere through things and recorded a team GPA like that. It means to tell you how committed these kids are to being not only athletes but student athletes.
Most definitely. And one thing I watched your team all year come to the games, your guys were together. Even guys wasn't playing, they were together. So dealing with this pandemic, dealing with the changes, your team is used to adversity from what I could tell from being around them. Little I was around them. So I can see why your guys would persevere and get that high GPA, even though they've put in a bad situation they couldn't have had no control over.
I think everyone around us, we've tried to establish a culture of caring for one another. And, I think when you have caring, I think you can overcome when people truly care about each other, that even the toughest times, as long as you're together, you can overcome anything. And it may be hard, I always tell my guys this, as David was walking through the valley, it doesn't mean he was staying in the valley.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible quote says, though I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, he says he's walking through it. He's not in it. He's not staying in it. So, I kind of try to use that with our guys. There's a lot of valleys we're going to walk through. Let's just not get stuck in the valley.
You got that right. And, I think this will help these young men for life, Coach, because 2020 has been a weird year. It's August now. It's like it's August. It's like it's been longer than August already. But these young men, for us, it allows to be able to say 2020. I got through the hardest year probably of my life I'm gonna deal with for a long time in my life. So these young men this year, while it's bad on its face, but they'll grow from this down the road, in my opinion, Coach.
No question. And here's one thing, JR, that people don't we don't realize is, and that's because social media and more media coverage and things have made things to be really traumatic, which they are. I mean, we're in a time of pandemics and divisiveness and things like that. But if you go through the history books and you look through history, it happens about every decade. Something happens, whether it be in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. There's something that happens that changes the world.
Most definitely.
And I'm hoping and I pray that what we're going through right now changes the world again. And every time that there's been change, it's been for the good. Change in the 60s brought some better things in the 70s. Change in the 70s brought better things in the 80s, and so forth and so on. And I'm hoping that we learn from what's going on here, and in humanity, and we get back just to being people who love one another. And I think this pandemic has brought families together and things like that. And probably on the flip side, it probably made a couple of people realize that they had to go into the transfer portal and get away from one another too. So
I think I've lived both, Coach, already. I've lived both. Like you said, like I said earlier, I haven't been home this much ever since I've been in the media, 8 years. Being home this much to me has been weird, but it's allowed me, like you said, to reevaluate my life, reevaluate things I'm doing in my life, but spend time with my godfather, who's in his 70s, so I haven't spent time with him forever, my uncle. So it's been good in that sense, and also getting a chance for me to get back and, reevaluate how to do the radio show and how to help people in here in Atlanta, because the city's hurting here in Atlanta. A lot of the Hawks, a lot of people had jobs working at the arena, don't have jobs right now, so trying to help those find jobs. So I think it's been good for me to actually help the community more than just be a voice. Not actually be actively, now I can't do it out in public per se, but feel my strings I have, my attachments, I can help people out in that way.
Yeah, no, you have a voice yourself. People listen to you, and so you're able to help influence people, and you also can be a person that may help someone that you don't even know you're helping them in their time of need just by your words. So you have a great platform, and I know you handle it with class, and so you bring everybody together through basketball, but also through camaraderie and your true caring for people, and not ever, you're a guy that's not ever been a stranger to anyone. So
you got that right.
That's a great gift to have.
Always accessible. I give listeners my phone number. They can have my number to call me whenever, which many hosts don't do that. You can call me whenever. I'll get back to you when I can, but I will call you back eventually and text you back when I can. So I've always felt like, hey, that's the way we got to do it, because the Lord's blessed me with a platform. 33 years old, with 1.1 listeners in Atlanta, from Chattanooga to Macon. I have to use my voice for good and speak truth to power and help people help people.
That's a great thing you're doing right now. You can help, educate and bring people together to listen to your show.
Most definitely. And Coach, for your young men, I know when they was away from you, you probably weren't worrying about their shape and getting a hoop, somebody now to have hoops to get to when everything shut down. So now that they're back on campus, how have you been trying to catch those guys up on strength and conditioning wise and getting their basketball legs back under them?
Very slowly, very, very slowly. The thing I don't want to do right now is overload them. I don't want to, I don't want to bring on an unnecessary injury because there's still uncertainty of if and when we play. I'm very transparent with my players about that. I do think we will have a season. When it starts, I don't know. Right now, we're just trying to get the old phrase, getting their sea legs out of them and try to get them back into some on the court shape. And so my job right now is just to, kind of baby feed them and teach them how to crawl before they walk again. So, I do have some kids that redshirted from injuries and stuff last year. And so my whole thing is I don't want to get them hurt again. So, we're trying to take it as slow as we can. Watch film, work on some individuals, keep them at low risk.
Most definitely, because what the worst thing you want to do is have a guy get hurt. And that was more concerned with the NBA bubble, which has been shocking. Guys have not really been getting hurt with those leg injuries, those nagging ankles, what you would think been off 1.5 months. The guys will be hurt playing at a high level that they're doing in Orlando. So, but you're young men who are not as developed as those guys are. It's great that you're taking them little baby steps here, small bites here, and to keep those guys from getting hurt because they go too hard. You can have an Achilles or an ankle or a knee, which will put them back another year. And you don't want that.
Yeah,
for sure.
No. That's the last thing I want to do right now is to put any unneeded risk on them, especially because with the pandemic, you don't know what other health risks that you put them in. So I got to try to minimize those things as well.
Now, Coach, how have you been trying to talk to the young men about just having to say no to stuff you want to say yes to? You can't go out and have a social life in Clarksville or up Fort Campbell or everyone or coming down to Nashville. You have to really stay in our little bird bubble in Clarksville amongst the team and protect everybody because one mistake can ruin for anybody. We can spread this thing like a wildfire to the whole team and we're all messed up. So how have your staff really been trying to tell the young men about, hey, one bad mistake can harm us all?
Our university has laid out a pretty good plan to try to protect our student athletes. They are 18 to 22-year-old young adults. So sometimes that is easier said than done. I went through all these stages, before the kids reported, and they were calling the 18 to 20-year-olds the super carriers. And, they're kind of trying to defy, the CDC and all this stuff. I was in Destin and they were kids having parties on the beach and things like that. And, the thing is that the unknown, which I tell them the unknown is what we don't know. We don't know what is going to be the future of this virus. We don't know the effects of it. So let's control everything we can control. And, don't eat in restaurants. Get your food to go. Wear your mask every time you're out in public. Wash your hands. Those type of things. And if you don't feel well, let me know and let's get it figured out. But just you got to be very cautious of who you associate. Don't get in gatherings, things like that. And I'm really fortunate. I got to trust in my players that have followed that.
Oh, definitely. That's very lucky. And also, I asked you, Coach, I know you lost the coach, and Sergio was a great guy. I love talking to him when I was around the team. How did a new assistant coach take his place? Tell us a little bit about him, what he brings to your staff to join with Nikita and Daryl.
Yeah, I hired Rod Clark, who I think is a great young and up-and-coming assistant coach. He's got a great background that sprinkles from Division I to the grassroots. He was a coach at Sunrise Christian, which is one of the prominent prep schools in the country, and also he was tied in with affiliation out of Atlanta, or excuse me, out of Kansas City, Mocan, which is one of the top EYBL teams in the Nike circuit. So he's got and he's young, and he's got a lot of enthusiasm and one of these future hungry guys that want to get in the trenches and work. And so in replacing a staff member, you got to figure out what's best for your team. And I brought in a person I think that will be available for my guys around the clock. These kids need attention, and it's sometimes I've gotten to an age now. I realize that my players look at me in a different view than they did when I was 20 some years old or in my early 30s. So by having youth around you as a coach, those kids, they understand that they can identify with them a little bit. So I decided I wanted to bring in a guy closer to the players' ages that will get them out and work out with them and things like that. So I think he's a great addition to our staff.
I ask you, how is Coach Martin and Michael Beasley doing? I know they both had COVID-19. I know you're close to both of those guys. So how have they been doing? How have they told you how they recovered and everything's going with them?
Well, I was actually with Frank last week, and he seems to be doing well. No side effects or anything so far that I know of. I haven't talked to Bees in a while. I was really hated it for him that he got signed by the Nets and hasn't been able to participate. So I hope he's got another chance in him to prove who he is.
Looking forward to hopefully we'll see Chris Silva tomorrow when Miami plays Indiana. Instead of playing in the first round of playoffs, hopefully they're nothing to play for. Hopefully we'll see Chris play some heavy minutes on Friday there, and hopefully he could represent for you guys. And I know we talked about him last week on the show, but I feel like he's going to really help that team down the road here. He really earned that contract they gave him, and he really helped that young team down the road here going forward.
Yeah, no, I think Chris's opportunity will come. I think that he have a great belief in him. It's been good to see some of our former players, Sedarius Thornwell with the Pelicans and PJ Dozier with the Nuggets, and Rodney Magruder hit a game-winning shot the other night with the Clippers. So got a chance to enjoy some basketball and see some of the guys I've been able to come in contact with my career that's done, that's been in the bubble and has been having the opportunity to keep fulfilling their dream as a basketball player.
Now, Coach, I had on Carl Massarello when I talked to Cliff Warren and Rob Lanier, of course, about what's going on with George Floyd and the situation with all the murders and the unrest in the country. How have you handled that with your team? Because I know a lot of young men don't understand fully what's going on. They've seen a lot of the videos. They don't really delve into politics and all that kind of stuff. But how have you and your staff trying to teach the young men about how they can move forward together as one and come together, and that we're building as a country, and that not everybody's bad, that there are some bad apples out here, but we all come together and be as one and fight together for equality for all?
Well, just through education, after the George Floyd tragic incident, there was riots around the country. And I decided to bring a friend of mine who is the commander of the Miami City of Miami Police Department, chief commander, and he does some stuff with the Miami Heat, and he has a slogan: bringing communities together one dribble at a time. And he was a former Division I basketball player, and he's also an officer of the law, and it was just education of things that our kids need to be aware of, and places they need to be aware of not being, and being cooperative with authority figures and things like that, and just engaging with education. And I think that's the more we educate our kids, the more they know and understand certain things. Because, like you said, I don't believe that people are bad. There are, as we are as a race, there's not bad lawyers or bad, politicians or whatever. There as a whole, there's a few bad apples in everything you do, just as in coaching. I mean, I think coaches are great mentors, but there are a few people in the coaching profession that, that have issues, and it's every walk of life. And so
Definitely.
all you can do is educate, man, and hope these guys, when decision times are made for them, that they make proper decisions to education. And that's all I try to preach to my guys.
And they're lucky to have you because you're a measured man. You're a measured man of character and principle and a faith. So lucky to have a coach like you who has the rational way to talk to these issues and help them out, because some coaches don't have the wherewithal to do it, and you can, which I admire you for, because your guys are in good hands with you for sure.
I appreciate that. I feel like that life experiences, I'll say this, and I may take some slack for it, but I can identify with a lot of my players, because I think sometimes people make a big deal of race, and it's a very sensitive thing. But I think people have more in common with one another from backgrounds.
Most definitely.
How you were raised and where you came from and how your home life was. And I think that's more, bonding than anything else. And so, I feel like I grew up like a lot of these young men did. That's something for me and them to share, that we share together. But I feel like I have a closeness and a bond, because I know, although I'm not African American, never been, I understand what it's like to grow up in situations that are hard as a child, and so I feel like I can identify with those guys, and they believe that, and that's where we have our trust and bond.
No, you're right, Coach, and I'll say this on the air too, that many blacks and whites have the similar experiences. We just have different skin colors, which shouldn't be an issue, but it is in this country still to this. We're working on that issue. So, no, you're right, Coach, because I feel like we all have different same scenarios, a lot of some scenarios, different backgrounds, having to struggle when we grew up and having to fight and scratch and claw for wherever we get. So, you're right, Coach. A lot of things we all have in common. It's just different experiences, different backgrounds, like you said.
No, that's it. And I think the one thing that keeps people in that situation or keeps people down is ignorance, and so we got to educate. We got to get educated, man. I'm talking about everybody. Everybody has to learn and be educated about situations, or we're always going to respond to the same situation over and over the same way. And we've got to educate, man. We got to educate ourselves. We got to educate others. We're not trying to influence people like us. We're trying to influence other people. So you got, when you're saying things, you got to be educated what you say.
Most definitely. And I thought this, Coach, for me, travel baseball, I met my first white person when I was 7 years old, Coach, in 94, right? So it took sports to teach me about another race, because before I was 7 years old, I had never been around any white people before in my life. But to travel baseball, and also I found sports is a perfect bridge to bring everybody together and get each other to talk to each other about their backgrounds, experiences. Because when you come as a team, you're about Austin P or the Atlanta Hawks, not about JR, Matt, or Terry Taylor. It's about the team. We're trying to win the game together, so that brings us together as one. We can learn from each other about our backgrounds, where you came from, what got us to the point we are today. So I feel like sports is a great bridge. Sports taught me about another race, and I can do that for the guys on your team and other people who come from Europe or Africa or wherever, come to your team. We can learn about each other because of basketball.
I 100% agree. I think it's I think sports, and that's why I think America needs to follow the model of sports, is because I may have said this before on your show. It don't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, Hispanic, or whatever. If you've got the common goal, and that's the definition of a team, coming together for one common goal, you're able to withstand and overlook other things that in normal society that people don't overlook. And I from a kid, I still remember seeing rich people and poor people standing side by side during a sporting event, black, white, rich, poor, and high-fiving and hugging one another because their favorite team was winning. And so there's something that's very powerful that I think we as Americans should watch. and it's a short documentary on the 30 for 30s. And JR, you should watch it. It's really, and I watched it a couple weeks ago, and it just shows you where our country was at. It's called The First Pitch, where the president throws out the first pitch in the World Series back in New York after 9/11. And if you watch that video in October 27th of 2001, you go back and watch that video, and you will see the strength of America and people as a whole, of loving one another. It's incredible. And we have got to somehow, that was through tragedy, of 9/11. We have got to somehow as a country get back to where we were when after 9/11 happened, where it didn't matter what you were as your race, you loved your brother and sister to the left and right of you. And we've got to get back to that.
Well, Coach, that's why I've dedicated myself to use this platform here I have since George Floyd's incident to help bring us together, because I know sports can do it. I know I'm liked by everybody around here. For the most part, nobody doesn't like me around here. So I feel like using this platform for good, man, and celebrating sports, but also giving everybody a chance to see about life as well. See how you and I are friends, and how me and Carmen Masserolo are friends, or me and Bruce Pearl are friends, because it doesn't matter what race we are. We have a common goal. We love sports. We're cool guys, a lot in common. So I feel like that's what we show our listeners and our country, that we are all as one. We all the same blood. There's different skin colors. We're all the same underneath. We all the same red blood. We're all Americans. All we want the same goal of everybody having the best life they possibly can.
That's well said, pal. You can't say it any better.
Well, Coach Fig, man, hope to see you real soon, buddy. I hope when this thing ends, we can get some game skills and come there and see you. I told you off there, man, I'll be remote this year since we got the bubbles things coming in the NBA, so I better sneak up there and see you guys more often now, man. I haven't been on the road so much.
Well, come on up anytime, brother.
All right, Coach, be good. Talk to you real soon, brother.
Thank you, man.
All right, it's Matt Figure on the ball.
My heart skips skipping the beat. You're not close enough, so that space between you and me, let's lose it. The way you're dancing, swaying to the music, girl, that body and how you move it. Every time you cross my mind, girl, I lose it.
Alexa, play the Country Heat playlist. Okay.
I don't think you know what you're doing to me. You got
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
It's maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer.
Tell me what you gonna do to me. Confrontation ain't nothing new to me. You could bring a bullet, bring a sword, bring a morgue, but you can't bring the truth to me.
Alexa, play Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
Okay.
Maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
till the tears run down from my eyes. Lord, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me? Somebody to love.
Alexa, play hits from Queen.
Okay.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Flame-seared, Greek-seasoned Euro meat. This is the kind of meat that only a legit Euro place would get. But maybe you don't think about Arby's as a Euro place. Well, Arby's sells more Greek, beef, and turkey Euros than anyone else in the country. So, you know what? We're totally a Euro place. We're the Euro place. 2 for $6. Arby's, we have the meat.
At participating Arby's for a limited time.